Hi everybody, Taria here. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome for the first time. If you are new here, I would like to thank you most sincerely for coming and giving me a chance. I'm really glad to have you. Sit-down videos are not all that I do. I also do bullet journaling planner videos, and I've arranged everything as conveniently as I find possible into playlists. So if you're just here for sit-downs, you can just click on that playlist, and vice versa for the other topics. For those who are returning to me, thank you for coming back and joining me once again. I really appreciate it. I am here today with another Pagan Perspective response video. Ooh! This one's not to questions, this one is to a specific topic. Today is Thursday, March 7th as I'm filming this, so this is this week's topic at 2019, just in case you're looking back on this years down the line. And the topic was written, and it was a question, and what it says is, I'd love to hear how you each came to the tradition that you're practicing. What appealed to you about that tradition more so than another? Was there any divination done that gave you the indication this was the right path? And that was asked by Eryk, who is a new member of Pagan Perspective. The Pagan Perspective is a collaborative channel where you get a bunch of pagans, obviously, on different paths, and they all weigh in on one question per week. And this is this week's question, and so you get a bunch of pagans' perspectives. Kind of obvious, right? Everyone I mention that I can find the links for will be linked down below. Everything I mention that is like a specific item or something, I always try my best to link it down below. If I forgot something, please let me know and I will fix it. So this question, I'm taking a slightly different angle from it. I'm taking my personal angle, and I'm coming from the position of my path right now is still a path of discovery. If you can hear those noises, those are my neighbors upstairs. They're just living their life, and I'm not going to apologize for it. But that's what that noise is, in case you're wondering. My path is still a path of discovery and exploration. I don't have a set practice yet. Much to my chagrin, I am working on it. But I really wanted to share the story of how I got to my path of exploration. So I'm specifically recording this after watching Kara, or Cute Witch 772, watching her video. I adore Kara. I think she's fantastic. She is one of my favorite YouTubers. I've got two favorite YouTubers. They are my favorite YouTubers of all time. She is one of them. And I admire her greatly. And I've spoken to her several times now, and she's wonderful. So I really love these opportunities to connect with her and with the community at large. So my story. I'm gonna talk a lot probably. I'm a chatty person. This is probably gonna be a longer video than you might prefer, and that's okay. If you decide you want to stick it out to the end, that would make me so happy. And if you do, I recommend putting me on as background noise. So that's the first disclaimer. The other disclaimer is this video, this story, involves talking about early pregnancy loss a little bit, specifically ectopic pregnancy. So if that is a hard thing for you to watch, and there will also be mentions of mental health and such, if that is a hard thing for you to watch and listen about it, I recommend you don't. So here's your warning. Take it as you need to. So the only thing as a kid, a lot of people have like inklings and stuff. I really only have two memories that kind of hinted at me coming around to this life, like very specifically to the witchy side of things, to the pagan side of things. And that was one, I was in a bookstore once when I was a kid, and I was flipping through and looking at a book that was like one of those instant spells, here's everything you need to do, and doesn't really add any depth or explanation to why you might do it. It even had a love spell. Nowadays, that's something I wouldn't look at. But as a kid, I was just intrigued. I loved the idea. So there's that memory. Of course, I watched Practical Magic, and I say of course because, well, of course I did. I've yet to watch a video with a YouTuber in this community who doesn't eventually talk about practical magic and how much they loved it. But the other memory I had was I made like a spell perfume type thing. I don't know. I don't remember much. So I didn't have any big childhood hints, neon signs, and perhaps that's partly because I grew up in a household where Halloween was evil. And I grew up in a household with a quote-unquote good Christian man who was an abusive asshole. So maybe that's why. That's all I have memory-wise of my childhood that hints. They're like, looking back, there's no like, oh my gosh, I was already doing this. There's none of that. The only other thing I had was like premonition-y type stuff. Every single relative I've had who's passed, but one, I've written what I read at their funeral before they died. As close as 2 days before. And I wrote it past tense. It would just hit me, and I've had dreams come true. That's pretty well it. So, moving forward several years, we're talking like 8 years later, I got back in touch with my now husband, my Zeke, and we'd known each other before and we lost touch, and then we got back in touch. There was always this just air between us, and he kind of opened this door for me again. And he certainly opened it more than I'd ever had it opened before, more than I ever thought possible. It was the first time I'd ever talked to someone really about any of this stuff, about my belief in reincarnation, about like soulmates. It was the first time I had ever had those conversations with another being. It was really cool. And as soon as the door got opened, as soon as it was like, oh my God, there's other people who believe this. This isn't just me. I'm not crazy. There's other people who believe this. This is a real thing. And that was not an easy concept for me to grasp. When that door opened, all of a sudden, there's so much there. And all of a sudden I could talk freely about believing in all these creatures and all these things that are so out there to most people, or to what seems to be most people. So that was really how my path started. My path of like, here's the path. Like, you can see the path now. I wasn't really on it, but you could see it. And there was some instances, there were some things I practiced, there were some rituals I performed in that time frame, and those were out of necessity. And it, like always, it kind of petered, and there were some very, very, very spiritual experiences with my beloved, with my husband. I still wouldn't consider myself at that time really on the path. So I was on the path in the sense that like I would do ritual and things, not very frequently. Like something would come up and I would feel this call to go and to do it, and I would do it and it would be fantastic. The results I got at the time were amazing. And that was really all that was happening at that point on my path. Not really specific. I don't think I'd really started identifying myself as a pagan. I certainly did not do it aloud. And then, okay, you're getting this in the best of my memory, and some of the timeline of this is a little hard to remember because there's a lot of really, really traumatic events in this part coming up. So, in November 2016, November 2016, I was pregnant. And I found out I was pregnant. It was wonderful. And it went really, really well. Until I went into my dating ultrasound. And they sent me to the hospital because my baby had implanted in my tube. That's what an ectopic pregnancy is. It's your baby implants somewhere where it can't grow safely. So I had to go to the hospital and deal with that. And something in me kind of broke. It was the first time after a few days had passed after my surgery, when I was at home recovering and I was still home with my son. There was, once I'd passed the very, very, very initial portion of the holy crap devastation grief of what I lost, it occurred to me how close it was, how close I was, how much my life itself had been threatened by this. Ectopic pregnancy is a life or death serious situation. I was very lucky. Mine hadn't ruptured. I wasn't internally bleeding. But that can happen, and that happens a lot. And there's something about the first time, because as a teenager, your brain isn't developed. You literally can't comprehend fully like you do as an adult that your life will end one day and you will be gone. It's a different level. Your brain just hasn't developed to perceive it the same way. And I was 25 at the time. I was really young. I mean, I'm not that much older, but I was really young. And it occurred to me like, oh my God, had things gone just a little differently, I could have really died. Like, something really could have happened to me. Because if I hadn't had that dating ultrasound, if I had started bleeding internally, if I had ignored the pain, like, it's a real serious situation. It's so serious, in fact, that now, anytime I've had a subsequent pregnancy, and any subsequent pregnancies I may have, I have to see a doctor immediately. Like, as soon as I find out I'm pregnant, as soon as I found out I was pregnant in those times, I had to go to a doctor right away. And I get multiple ultrasounds because, seriously, an ectopic can kill you. And that was a really hard day. I don't even really remember that day. I have this blurry memory of sitting on my couch and crying and writing, and that's about it. So something in me kind of broke when I lost my baby and I lost that level of innocence I didn't even know I'd had. I wouldn't have classified myself as an innocent individual at that time. Now I can see. I realized I didn't want to live my life for other people. I didn't want to change who I was for other people. I wanted to be me. I've always known him the core of who I am. And even though my husband and I had a lot of spiritual events, we had a lot of open discussion, we had a lot of that was always very hushed, very quiet. That was our kind of in the broom closet type way. I didn't have an altar, I didn't have any of that. And these are things that I have now come to find to be very important to me. The most I would have is this. And not this specific, but my stone necklaces. I've always worn one. I will always have at least one stone around my neck. And that would be about the extent of it. And at that point I was tired because life is short. It was really my first reality check of how short life can be. And I didn't want to waste my life. So that was kind of the second phase. Or the second, like, factor that just me right over. So during that second phase, I started, that's definitely when I recall starting to use the word pagan. And I looked up pagan perspective. Like, I looked up pagan videos on YouTube, and I found the Pagan Perspective channel. And I found Cara and her Cute Witch 772 channel. And then I spent about a year, no joking, I spent about a year watching those videos, having them on as background noise all the time. And that was a really, really, really big thing for me. And that would be the point where I really would class my path starting as being the path of discovery, the path of exploration. I was actively looking for things. I set up an altar in my wardrobe at first so I could close the door and no one would see it when they came over. And then I went bopping along and I felt wonderful and it was great. And Cara mentioned in one of her videos that she attended a UU, or a Unitarian Universalist congregation. And I thought, that's kind of cool. And that was about it. I don't know why at the time, but I just think, oh, that's kind of cool. And I didn't really do anything with it. And then gradually over time, my altar came out from my wardrobe and I put it on my dresser. And it was very simple at the time. And we very rapidly started accumulating stuff. Before I would just kind of go and buy stones. I have stones everywhere. They are my big item. I have them everywhere. One more. So I'd already started accumulating. I had a bit of a collection, and then things kind of picked up the pace on that end. I bought a lot of items. Some I've gotten rid of. Some that I've ended up not using. Whatever. I don't care. I was learning, and I'm still learning. And then I was watching, and this went on for like this phase of in and out of it, and I had this thing start happening where I started trying to do rituals and things, and it didn't feel like they were effective. Like, it kind of felt for a while like they were defective. It was weird. I think maybe it was because the things I'd done before were more drastic, situational rituals and things that they felt different, and I didn't recognize that feeling. Or just wasn't right for me. I pretty well went along for a while. And then I was watching a video by my other favorite YouTuber. Her name is Cindy Guntert Baldo. Apologies for my pronunciation if you ever see this, Cindy. She is a sweary planner and she is fantastic. She will be linked down below as well. And she mentioned, and this was almost a year ago, or about a year ago. It's coming up really fast. And she mentioned that she went to a UU congregation. And I thought, you know, that's really cool. I've heard of it before, but it hit me on another level. And I thought, you know, I'm gonna look. For some reason, I'd heard them mentioned before. I'd heard it mentioned several times among Cara's videos on their personal channel. And I never thought to look it up until that day. And I don't remember the exact day I looked it up. It would have been the week of my birthday, which is March 30th. So, and I looked it up and I found one. And it was right in my neighborhood. And I looked on their calendar and there was a full moon circle. And I thought, that's really cool. That last year was a really, really rough year. I describe it as a year that was mentally the hardest year ever, and it was one of the greatest years of my life. January and February and most of March, they sucked. They sucked hard. That was when my mental health first really gave me trouble. So at that point, I really needed something. So I looked up this congregation, and it had a full moon circle. And the full moon circle was the day after my birthday. It was on March 31st. And I thought, that's really cool. That day came, and I messaged, I went on Facebook, I found a group for them, I joined it, I messaged, I said, hey, do you have to be a member? Do you have to attend the congregation to attend the full moon circle? And they said, no, you're good. That was really the call. And I'm so glad I got that call. And you'll have to forgive me if I cry, because as I said, it hasn't even been a year yet. And this is the part that is really, this was the big moment, the big change. So I was at my in-laws' house waiting for the time to leave for this full moon circle. I didn't even tell anyone where I was going. People asked and I wouldn't tell them because I was so nervous. I was nauseous. And my husband, Zeke, he was asking me, I was like, I really don't feel good. And he's like, are you gonna stay? And I'm like, no, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna feel like crap probably until I get there, and I'm gonna go. And this full moon is a woman's circle and just women. And I went and I walked in to this room and I felt at home. And it's a really big deal for me because literally my whole life I sit there, and when I get really upset, I'd be like, I want to go home. Even if I was in my own house, I'd be like, I want to go home. And I never really had anything to picture. I never really had a home to picture. I would picture my husband. I walked into that room where it was set up for the full moon circle, and I felt at home. And there was like 5 or 6 of us, and suddenly I was in this group of women, and we were talking openly about things like smudging. This was still very new to me, even having watched Pagan Perspective for so long. I still never really participated. It felt like home, and I thought to myself, now, you're just coming here for the first time. Relax, you don't know. Just wait, because I'm a skeptic like that. And I went through the full moon circle, and I cried my face off. The past 2 years, on March 16th, I've had a miscarriage every year for the past 2 years. This year it won't happen because I'm not pregnant. So, yay for that. So, 2017 and 2018, March 16th, 2 weeks before my birthday, I was diagnosed with miscarriage, both of those years. So it was really emotional. That was my second miscarriage, my third loss in a row. It just felt so much like home, and I cried my eyes out, and I shared, and I knew that I had found my place. I was still a bit skeptical. I thought, oh, well, you still don't know, but I knew. I did. I knew, and I wanted all of it. So I went home and I told Zeke about all of this, and I was so excited, and I told him, like, we gotta go and check out their service. Please, let's at least give it a try, because if this is any indication, and this is run by longtime members of this congregation, this is it for us. I knew. My husband, Zeke, he was very skeptical. But we went. So this was Easter Sunday. And we went. And again, I cried, and Zeke missed part of the service because he was helping with our son, because I guess he knew how important it was for me not to miss it. And we cried, and it was wonderful, and it was beautiful. And again, I thought, this is my home. And everything that has happened at neighborhood. So if you're in the GTA, if you're in Toronto, Ontario, check out Neighborhood Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I will link them down below. I can't speak for other congregations because I haven't been. This one is amazing. It's so amazing that even having moved to Oshawa, we still go every Sunday. I think I've missed like 2 Sundays since the end of August when we moved. I think I've missed 2 of like 24 Sundays since we moved here. So that was the beginning of April. We joined as members of the congregation in June. 2 months, not even, just over 2 months, and we joined as members of the congregation. And then the following month in July, in June, we joined the choir. And we left the choir rehearsal, and I turned to Zeke and I said, "We did it! It took 27 years, but we finally found where all the other weirdos go." And I meant that in the best possible sense. To me, weird is like a highest compliment. That event of finding this congregation has saved my life. And I don't care if you think that sounds dramatic, because I was on a really, really rough, dark path. Finding this congregation has been one step right after the other of the greatest thing that's ever helped me in this area. That's how I got there. I got there with pushes from people I admire, respect, love. And it's been amazing since then. I'm still learning and discovering and exploring. And there's been a lot of new things going on in my life, like this, like my Etsy shop, my paintings, my Patreon. All of my links for all of my stuff I have is down below. Always. And my life has grown exponentially in the past almost year. It's been almost a year. I can't believe it. And this year I've had has been the greatest. Like last year, I had some really, really, really hard moments. And if it weren't for that community, finding them at the exact perfect time that I found them, I believe that year would have been terrible. I believe I probably would have lost everything. Because I found my spiritual community, my spiritual home at exactly the right time. Everything I love and hold most dear was safe. And I have learned so much about myself, and I have grown so much. I have reverted, because as I've said previously, I don't believe people change. I believe they unlearn what took them away from who they are to begin with. And I've reverted back to who I am a lot. My mental health, I never thought it would get better. I thought I would end up needing medication, and there's nothing wrong with that, not at all. To me, medication didn't sit right. The idea of it, for me personally only. I was a shell, I was broken, I was utterly depressed. And because I found a place where I felt at home, a place where no matter what I'm dealing with, we'd walk in those doors and everything would be right again. And I just realized you can see my kitty in the background. Kitty, she's having a potty. And we had our first weekend away together last year, and this place held me safe so I could see all the ways I was being loved and held safe previously that I was blind to. It was kind of an emotional blindness. It just didn't compute in my head. It gave me an example of what a grown, adult, mature, loving reaction and interaction was like. It has given me so much. And so that's why I wanted to share this story. Because finding my path, even though I don't have a definition for my path besides it being a pagan path, and a Unitarian Universalist path, absolutely, even though there's still a lot of learning going on and still a lot of deciding and figuring, do I want a daily practice? Well, yes. What is this daily practice going to be? Right now, it's a daily practice of learning and growing and discovering. And I would not have that if it weren't for, first, my Zeke, who opened the door for me. Then Kara, who taught me so much and gave me an example and confidence that these things could be okay. And then Cindy, who activated that call within myself to find my spiritual community. For me, the community is the most important thing. The talking, I'm an auditory verbal learner, and talking is my sacredness. The talking for me is incredibly important. The community for me is incredibly important. I am lost without it. And that's why I have taken so well to these videos, because it's talking. I would rather talk about things than write about them any day of the week. I love writing too. It's not the same as talking. I'd be lost without those three people, without Zeke, without Kara, without Cindy. So if all of you are watching this, I could never, ever fully express how grateful I am to have you in my lives. I know for Kara and Cindy, it's a more unusual way. Cindy and I have chatted in live streams and comment on her videos, and it's through the internet. I hope to meet her one year at PGW, Planners Gone Wild, or Go Wild. I really want to go next year. And Kara, her and I feel are more connected because I've spoken with her several times and at length. I consider her a friend. I consider them both kind of friends. Kara more so, I'm more connected to. So even with them being in a less direct way a part of my life than my husband is, of course, I would be lost if it weren't for these three people. And even though I know it wasn't always something you set out to do, you've helped and you make a difference. And that means so much to me. And I hope all three of you will always be a part of my life. I don't care if it's a more indirect way like it is currently with Cindy. I hope all three of you are always a part of my life. Zeke, I hope you never leave my side, and I will always stay by yours. And Kara, I really hope I get to meet you too. So that's how I found my path. I found them through my friends, through my loved ones, through my community. And if you're on the newer end and you're watching this, it's worth it. All those moments of doubt I had, all those times when I thought maybe I was crazy, or maybe I was wrong about something, it's all worth the effort to keep going. Because those great moments I've had, those moments I've had when I did my first ever solstice service, a drum circle on right around you all, the choir retreat weekend with my husband, swimming together, all of these wonderful things. I went to the Parliament of World Religions. They're worth it. Those things I'm doing that bring me to myself they're worth every stitch. They're worth every ounce of pain. They're worth every pound, every ton. Cara is the one who expressed it first that I ever heard of it. And it's been so true. It was very true last year. 2018 was the hardest year I ever had mentally. And it was also the best year. It was also one of the greatest years of my life. So, thank you, Cara, Cindy, Zeke. You are last, but you are not least, not at all. Thank you all. And thank you to those of you who have watched this, especially if you've watched it right through. I don't expect many people will, and I don't care. Because one day, I believe someone like me will come along who loves long videos. And I thank everyone who stopped by here for any and all efforts. That's all I've got for you today. Kind of a heavy topic, but I think a beautiful one. And I will not apologize for the length of my videos. Ever. I don't care. If you don't like long videos, watch shorter ones or don't watch all of my videos. I will be unapologetically who I am. And I'm a talker. And I will find, it may take some time, but I will find the people who are meant to watch my videos. I will find the people who love and appreciate my videos, or they will find me. I will find my more personal community. I know that. And if you're still out there, I can't wait to meet you. I can't wait. And I hope that one day someone will make a video like this and I'll be the subject. And I will be the one being thanked. I would love to repay that back into the world. So thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for sticking it out if you did. I applaud every chance, every trial. Even if you didn't stick it out, thank you for tuning in. Even though you won't hear this, I don't care. If you like what you saw, please hit the like button down below. Give me a thumbs up. That would be great. Think about subscribing. Not all of my videos are this long. This is going to be my longest video to date. And I warned you. So, oh well. So, I hope I'll see you soon. Please come back. And please check out some of the links below. If you are a pagan like me, or you are just a self-proclaimed weirdo like me, or any of that, check out the Pagan Perspective. You won't regret it. It's really cool. And again, if you're in the Toronto area, the GTA of Ontario, and you've got a vehicle or you're not opposed to traveling, and you think, that congregation, a UU congregation, is not a church. Some people use the word church, but it is not a quote-unquote church. There's no dogma. There's no set things. This is a place where atheists, Buddhists, pagans, Christians, anyone can get together. So, check them out. They are linked down below. They have a Facebook group. They have a bunch of stuff. Check them out. I would love to hear some thoughts on this video. And that's all I got for you today. And I'm gonna sign off now because this video is gonna be long. So, love and light always. Bye.